You right, Aaron?
Yep.
Great. Good morning all. Could I ask Councillor Plum please to lead us in prayer this morning?
Almighty God, we acknowledge that we have a responsibility to look after your creation, especially this region we call our Halton Regional Council. We are also conscious that our decisions are going to affect deeply the lives, the land and the property of the people we have come here to serve. Remind us to exercise respect to each of our fellow councillors, staff and the people of our region. Help us in this meeting to act wisely, justly and intelligently in all our deliberations. Thank you, Lord, for the privilege of both leading and serving, and assist us to do this well. Amen.
Amen. Councillors, I have two bereavements for the record. The late Mrs. Pauline Gibb of Alpha and the late Mr. John Osborne, resident of Jericho. Close relations to a number of our staff in that area. Are there any others? Our thoughts are with the families. If we could please observe a moment's silence. Thank you. Before I go any further, I'd just like to acknowledge a small disaster that is unfolding on our doorstep this morning in Central Highlands. Properties in the Sapphire area have received over 300 millimetres of rain overnight. Official gauges measuring 200, but numerous properties 300. There's significant flooding in effect. That area is extremely drought-stricken, as drought-stricken as anything in our council area. So there will be significant agricultural damage and asset damage within the Central Highlands Regional Council and also elements of the Isaac region. So at the appropriate time today, I'll be reaching out to both of those mayors who would have activated disaster management centres this morning, just to ensure that everybody's okay. Everybody prays for rain, but 300 millimetres in a night, doesn't matter whether you're in Tully, Townsville, Barcaldine, or Quilby, is a complete waste of rain. It will have very little positive effect. So our thoughts are certainly with the people of that area. The only perhaps good news for the Central Highlands is that a significant amount of rain has also fallen at the top of the Nagoa River catchment, so there may be some continued flow into the dam. But we'll certainly reach out on behalf of our residents to those two mayors and see whether there's anything that can be done to assist both big councils. They should be right, but we will check. That noise. Hello Paula, how are you this morning? Very good, very good. Plenty of rain in Aramac, so good reason to not be able to come to a council meeting.
Yeah, plenty of rain. Well received, so that's good.
Very good.
How high is the creek, Paula?
It's only about 0.4, Gary, I believe.
Thank you.
Very good. So, Paula, just I will find it difficult at times to see you on our screen today. So, if there's anything that observation that you wish to make, please just interject so that I can be aware that you have a contribution to make.
Yes, no worries.
Okay. Apologies. Can I just ask that the record enter an apology for Councillor Hanson? It is expected that he will rejoin the meeting or join the meeting at some point today, but can I have him listed as an apology. There being no others, they'll be moved to Councillor Peebles and seconded to Councillor Plum. In favour? Carried 6-0. I'd like to take this opportunity to acknowledge the traditional owners and custodians of the land upon which we meet and their elders both past, present and emerging. I now call for declarations of prescribed conflict of interest. Just before I go, councillors, after the meeting, could you please just all call via the regional office in your pigeonholes there is actually, or is it here in front of you? Sorry. So I photocopied yesterday what is the most recent fact sheet from the department on this. Now I acknowledge it's not simplified and it is very similar to a form that Brett circulated last year. At that point it was on 4 separate pages. It has the script, some pointers, some examples. It's their attempt to keep it somewhat. So need not necessarily be for reference immediately, but I did just put that there as a bit of a tool for you to keep in your meeting pack to assist. So, right, prescribed conflicts of interest. If I can start with Councillor Pickles.
Mr Mayor, excuse me, I'd like to declare a prescribed conflict of interest for 3.5.6. As in the past meetings, this is to do with pathways going to Border Street, and my home is in Border Street, so I'll declare a prescribed conflict of interest there. 3.7.1, as there's some, pretty sure there's some hearing in items in that report that I have attended on, so I will declare a prescribed conflict of interest in 3.7.1 and 3.11.3. That program there could possibly benefit my business to buy local, and I will also declare that. Understand some of the new legislation and received that email from you last night, Anna, but I just want to err on the side of caution at the moment. So I'll declare those 3 and leave the room for all 3.
Three, 5, 6, 3, 7, 1, 3, 11, 3.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's right, that's right. Okay, that's fine. Councillor Bliss.
Mr Mayor, I believe that I don't have any prescribed conflicts.
Thank you. Councillor Arthur.
Mr Mayor, I inform the meeting that I have prescribed conflicts of interest in 3.2.1, the Globe Tourism Lockout tenders. As a close associate of mine has supplied prices to the tenderers. I also have conflicts of interest in 3.72, 3.73, 3.74 and 3.75 as a close associate of mine. Michael Horman of Michael Horman Transport, as my employer, is a tenderer for those contracts.
Sorry, you were too quick for me. So that's all 3, 4 tenders, 7, 2, 3, 4
package
and 5.
7, 8, 9 and 10.
Yeah.
In accordance with 150 EM of the Local Government Act, I will leave the meeting and stay away from the meeting while this matter is discussed and voted on.
And the Chair, you installed for that purpose.
Yes, Mr Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Arthur. Councillor Plum.
Mr Mayor, I have prescribed conflict of interest in item 3.5.2 in section 1.1.2 in the Planning and Development Report due to my employment with Elders Rural Services, whom is mentioned in this report.
Understood.
I'll be leaving the room.
Just so I don't have to come back to it at the end, Councillor Peoples referred to his business benefiting as a result of the Buy Local campaign. Do you have any similar concerns? I ask it, I don't state it.
Yeah. Possibly. Possibly. That's hard to say.
Consider it while we keep going. Councillor Roberts.
Mr Mayor, I have prescribed conflict of interest in 3.5.6 project report due to my sculpture trail that's mentioned in that report, and I'll leave the room for that. I'm not sure about the Outback Queensland Tourism Association deputation.
I am.
I'm not sure whether they're going to discuss in detail, like the sculpture trail, like, and whether I should be here, or whether it's a conflict of interest or a prescribed.
So Councillor Rogers, that even if that was the sole purpose of their visit to discuss it, there's no decision of council as a result of that. And should you choose to leave if they do discuss it, we'd be losing council's biggest asset in communicating around the strength and value of that. I don't in any way see it, but if you should be concerned, my recommendation to you would be to declare it and leave it at the
Yeah,
discretion
so
of the peers.
I'll leave that for the next one.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing that I'm not sure about is I'm going to sponsor the Marlborough Sheep Show. So does that mean that I've got a conflict of interest because we're talking about sponsoring it as well as council?
I believe you'd have that as a declared conflict of interest,
Declared, yeah.
because that would be entered into your declarations register as a sponsorship if it reaches the threshold of $500. So I think it is. So I would once again, I just declare that your intent is to sponsor it, and if the other members of the council think that that provides a significant enough conflict of interest, they can rule one way or the other.
I'll leave those.
So we're back to the start. Well, you may as well do them both now.
Well,
I have no PCOIs that I'm aware of. Oh, well, I better ask, does any councillor present have a PCOI for somebody else? Unless have you thought about it?
Yeah, I think I'll go with Gary, the same as Gary.
So you'll declare on 311.3 on the basis of your employment with a local retail, local commercial entity. I don't believe that affects anybody else. You were right. It's not going to make
I don't think the
any
nature of my
concrete.
employer sits with the, well,
Right. Sorry, 311.3, that's 41. Right. So go with your declared.
So I think I could have a declared conflict of interest in this deputation that we're receiving from the Outback Queensland Association if they're going to go into any depth with the sculpture trail. So I would ask my fellow councillors to decide whether I should stay in the room or whether I should leave.
Yes, I'll move that Councillor Rogers remains. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Peoples, any discussion? There being none, I'll put it to the vote. Those in favour? Carried 5-0, please.
And I am going to be a sponsor of the Marlborough Sheep Show, the Marlborough Stock Show, which we will be discussing later in the agenda.
It is 392.
Yeah, 3.92. And so I have a conflict of interest in it, but I would ask my fellow councillors to vote on whether I should be allowed to stay in the room or should leave the room.
Yes, I'll move that Councillor Rogers remain in the room and participate in the debate and voting thereon. Do I have a second? Councillor Gleeson, any discussion? There being none, all in favour? Against? 5-0, please. Thank you, Councillor Ross. Councillor Plum, any DCOI?
No.
no, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Gleeson?
No, sir.
No, it's me.
Right. That's surprised me. I expected to be still here for another few minutes. Councillors, the time is 8:40 and we are receiving our first deputation at 9 o'clock. The first agenda item is a confidential report which asks us for the meeting to be closed. Oh, sorry. We'll confirm minutes first. Thank you. Can I have somebody move that we receive those minutes, please? Councillor Arthur, seconded Councillor Plum. Those in favour? Carried 6-0. Any comment about those minutes?
Mr Mayor, at the last meeting we had a resolution to acquire land from Sardine, and we didn't actually list the parcels of land in the resolution, and our solicitors have come back and said that that resolution requires the individual parcels to be listed. So I would request that we amend that resolution to include the 16 parcels of land.
Is it an amendment? Or is it a new resolution?
The resolution says that we acquire the parcels known as Zardine.
Councillors, we're all pretty clear about the parcels were listed in our agenda material.
Yep.
So are we comfortable that we can amend on the basis that our intent was to acquire the parcels that were in our agenda material, or do you want to pass a new resolution?
It's just identifying them, isn't it?
It's clarifying our intent. The intent of the resolution was to acquire those 16 parcels of land. Our wording of such didn't actually cover what is required. So I don't think there's any lack of clarity. It's just a lack of clarity. I think we're just providing that. I've got no problem with an amendment.
No problem with Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Gleeson,
Yes, no problem.
can I have a motion then to amend the minutes, the resolution? Do you know the number of the resolution? I'll find it. Resolution 2021/02/49.
I'm sorry, what was that?
So we move to amend resolution 2021/02/49. Yes, sorry, continue from the end. Yep. To specifically reference the individual title identification of the 16 freehold parcels of land identified in clause B of that resolution. Councillors, the resolution read, while that's being tidied up, that council deems the land known as Sardine to be of so little value that if it was sold, the proceeds of the sale would be less than the amount of overdue rates or charges. B, acquires 16 freehold parcels of land known as Sardine for overdue rates and charges. And C, gives all interested parties a notice of intention to acquire the land. So effectively what the record will amend, and the minutes will be changed to reflect that. In B, we will individually identify with the correct DOR identification. Right. There's no material intent there, no material change, it's just clarification. We're happy with that. Anna or Brady, you happy with that resolution? Thank you. So the record will be changed. Can I have a mover? Councillor Plum, seconded Councillor Rogers. Those in favour? Carried 6-0. Now, can I have a minute so the minutes of the meeting be confirmed with the above amendment, or with amendment, the amendment? I'll move up. Councillor Plum, seconded Councillor Gleeson. Those in favour? Carried 6-0. Okay. Notwithstanding that there will probably be a couple of different things, we do need to brief council on 321 to a degree that I don't believe we have time right now, given there's a deputation only 2 minutes away. The meeting's commission, I will move to officer reports for a start. I won't move a motion for that, I'll just proceed on that on the basis of time. Can I have somebody move that my report be received, please. Councillor Peoples, seconded Councillor Gleeson, those in favour. Carried. The only meeting to add, probably could just go into next week's, but I met yesterday with Angela and Anna and Jenny and the advanced team from LGAQ regarding bush councils. So their visitation to site was to both identify the program of events and to do a facilities inspection so that they can start and understand the rough layout, and there'll be some communication pieces going out very shortly from both LGAQ and us, just to let people know locally what the event's going to be. I mean, it'll bring in excess of 250 people to town for 3 days. Delegates, sponsors, council staff. There'll be a piece probably in one of the next couple of gazettes about that. It will mean some significant challenges during that week. It'll be a great event for the town, fantastic injection. I've certainly asked also to include either community groups or school children from other towns. So, for example, at the gala dinner, we've got hospitality students of the schools in Aramac and Alpha that may be able to be a part of that. We've got community groups who may be able to help with a breakfast or so forth, or a combined effort from, you know, all of them. So officers are certainly working closely with LGAQ so that it's not just only here in Buckle. Even though the event will only be here and there's not going to be the scope to move them out into the region, we can certainly give some regional intent. For example, one of the proposed items in that draft agenda is the section for the school children to present if I were mayor for a day, which will be a really good little segment. So we'll invite not only the school children from Barton Town to that, but the invitation will certainly be sent to from Muttaburra to Alpha on that. And yeah, so we're trying to make it as regional event as we can. Just highlight to a lot of these other councils that are coming, 43 local governments will be in attendance. So that's 2/3 of the local governments in Queensland, and more than 2/3 of the geographic area of Queensland, from Cook in the far north to Gundawindi in the south, and obviously the rapid councils in the southwest. So it will be a huge undertaking. Obviously LGAQ will the central event coordinators, but on our very small staff, it will be a massive undertaking, just coordinating tables, chairs, local stuff, local community group involvement. Accommodation will be massive. But councillors, I will have significant roles for all of you who can be available to help. So as I've pitched that we will be the official welcome party for each of our dignitaries, so state and federal ministers who will be flying in. And given that there's actually going to be plenary sessions on the way, it may not be always possible for myself to do those. So we will organise rosters and get you to, a combination of you to meet people and take them to their accommodation and give them a tour of the facilities and ensure they're at the right spot at the right time. So there will be some key logistical work, as well as obviously attending as delegates, as host delegates, and being at Masters of Ceremonies where required, just so that we can share that around. So very loose sketch of what's coming. Not enough detail for what you really need to know, I understand that, but as draft programs are coming together, we'll certainly meet more as a group, and Angela will be our, Angela will be our point person with LGAQ and us as our liaison to get that across the line. They're very excited about it. They understand that these events are not easy to host in these small communities, but the fact that they're bringing it here will be a significant boon for the region, and we get a bit of a dry run 2 weeks before, because we will be hosting a WARMAC in the region. And for those officers, Brett and Rick and perhaps who've been to WARMAC conferences, they're not as big as LGAQ, but they're an interesting little segue into what will be a much bigger conference. And we will be hopefully able to undertake some technical tours that may pull in other facilities such as Aramac waste landfill and our new landfill with that. So we've got a bit of a busy conference period coming in. We've been lucky to secure a couple of them, but it will place some time constraints and cost pressures even on some of our staff. So if a request comes at short order for somebody to help with an official welcome or jump in a council car and go and meet a plane, we'd appreciate councillors if they can pitch in that respect. Does anyone have any questions for anything You may note a significant amount of correspondence went to local accommodation. I was just, and you see the actual correspondence that I received further on from the local federal member. I had spoken, and Jess followed up on my behalf with David's office, and that's a very small grant that's going to go to a first come first served basis. So the day we got it, we printed hard copies of all the material and posted within hours to all of the local businesses that advice, so they could get every opportunity to get ahead of the game and get it in. You know, I'm aware that some businesses have already submitted, so with a bit of luck they might be successful. It's got nothing to do with local government, we were just a conduit. But yeah, they and some had already been received advice of it, others hadn't. But that, yeah, so that's not something that we'll have further visibility of. We were simply just providing, I'm just providing that advice to you that that's not a program we need to monitor, or we won't receive any advice about that until we one day walk into one of those establishments and we've got solar panels on the roof. That's what it's about.
Mr. Mooney, unfortunately,
I'm sorry, Councillor.
I didn't get an email at work meeting, so I'm sorry about that.
What I'm talking about, it's on page 17 of your agenda, all the correspondence.
No, I'm just saying I haven't received at work. Did you say
No, you won't.
Businesses?
Accommodation. You've got to be an accommodation provider.
Oh, sorry, right. Yeah, you're right. When is the local government?
No, I don't think solar was eligible under the program.
Sorry, energy efficiency,
Yeah.
insulation and, yeah, whatever it was. Councillor Beagles?
Yeah, well, visitors.
Okay, any quick, welcome them in, please, somebody. Does anyone have any other further questions for my report? Right. Very good. How are we going to accommodate this? We've got one chair there, one chair there, one chair there. G'day, Matt, Denise, how are you? Very good, thank you. Councillor, sorry, Jess has to leave, just so that we don't miss this. Can I have somebody move that my report be received? Oh, sorry, no, the deputation be received, my apologies. Councillor Gleeson, seconded Councillor Peoples. We formally welcome the deputation from Outback Queensland Tourism, but also from TEQ. So two formal resolutions. And then our officers that have joined us, Angela and Kylie, thank you very much. Matt, Denise, would you like to go in closed session?
Up to you. All the stuff I've got is all pretty public record, so.
Yeah, g'day again, how are you? Sorry I kept you. Yeah, I did bring rain. Again? This time last year. I brought the rain, so
Denise, would you like to close the meeting?
Yeah,
Because it is on camera. Councillors, we might. There's probably a degree of operational sort of feedback that may come through this. Let's just proceed in open meeting, and if we get to a situation where we think it'll be it's required to close, well, we will. I don't see any problem with us staying open. No, we'll let you know, Aaron, if we do. So, were you on the plane that landed here yesterday and then went to Longreach? How cool did that storm look when he's got back up in the air in the southwest?
As we turned to taxi, I could see it out the window. It was very, very, very dark.
I wouldn't have cared to have been on the plane that was going from Longreach back to Brisbane. It would have had a significant detour.
We had a couple just coming to Longreach, a couple of streams.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so.
You don't get very high between the two.
No. And then I came down about 7 last night, and it was about 40k out of town. Just a wall of water, but not a drop up there in Longreach. No. So it's all down here.
And we just identified at the start of the meeting over 300 mils have been received around Gem Fields, Anarchy.
Saw that.
So that's the reverse of what they really needed. 30 mil of rain each day for 10 days would have been better than 300 mil in one day. So anyway.
Good way, isn't it?
Okay, so Denise, welcome. Are
Thank you.
Going to lead us through a presentation?
I will lead you through a presentation.
Wonderful.
Thank you very much, councillors. Thank you very much, Mayor. This is a great opportunity. My apologies for a false start earlier in the year. However, we went into lockdown in Brisbane and it was my board's decision, and also we followed the line of TEQ and government employees that we wouldn't travel and bring any further opportunity to bring any COVID experiences out here, which is fantastic that we've still remained extremely safe out here. I will just say, I looked at my diary last night and I was out here this time last year, and I've been here 4 or 5 times since then. But this time last year I brought the rain as well, so I just want to claim that success at this stage. So look, just going back on the last 15 months, I've been in the role for 15 months with OQTA, and I know that we've had a couple of rocky starts with Buckhorn Regional Council, and I really just wanted to spend a little time talking about some of the areas that we addressed in the letter back to the council, and just to be fully, do I point this at any particular?
Oh, I think it's doing something with the Zoom. Oh, with the Zoom. Did you try to use the keyboard? Sorry.
Okay, that's all right.
Sorry.
Do you want, sorry, so I'll just do it on here. No worries, thank you, I apologise. So I just wanted to bring you up to speed on where we're at. So I took over in November, and there was an MOU that was signed prior to me arriving between MOUs between OQTA and Buckhorn Regional Council. In that time, in that 3 months up until COVID, we had an invitation to attend a planning meeting, which I was unable to make because of personal reasons. And then, of course, we went into Christmas and January, and then straight into lockdown for COVID. So during that time, we certainly have focused on the future. We haven't focused on the past. But what we've been able to do through our relationship with Angela and Brett is to really unpack some of those details in those letters and work out some solutions to those blockages. So I just wanted to say that on the outset, what we spent most of our time last year doing was securing ICONS funding, which we secured also for the Workers' Heritage Centre. And we actually set a precedent in that Outback Queensland Tourism went to state government and asked for a tranche of money just to be isolated for the Outback. There was 21 million and we pulled 3 million out of that for the Outback. So we certainly punched well above our weight by lobbying in that sense to do that. So what we did is we spoke about the Tree of Knowledge and the Workers' Heritage Centre. We were able to get funding and chaperone that through the stages of government to make sure that we had some money to come out of recovery. We also chaperoned a lot of the OTI and GTI funding, and we've spent quite a bit of time with Yambuku and Yambunku and also Cheryl Thompson, bringing on those new Indigenous projects, and we're working with them more on the certainly the Indigenous tourism, which Matt might talk about in his presentation a bit more. We've obviously forged a great relationship with TEQ. It was never broken, but we have a much closer relationship, and particularly given that I'm based in Brisbane, I'm always either in William Street or I'm in Tourism Queensland or I'm in QT, and we're making sure that we're in every trough that there's any funding going around and any opportunity to collaborate. In terms of the Buckhorn visual content, we were able to get some more blog content and more photo content, which we've been able to share with Angela and her team and to use some of that footage. I've had a couple of meetings with Philip from Workers' Heritage Centre, and I'm really happy with the way that's all going and how we've been able to help with letters of support, trying to encourage that and chaperone that through. We've also appointed an OQTA PR agency, and that was made possible by the funding that Tourism and Events Queensland were able to chaperone through the state government for some recovery funds. So we've actually used that, and also our muster, which we launched the season 2 weeks ago in Brisbane. We were able to use some of that funding to get that messaging out and proud and loud. One of the major issues that we had was the Lake Dunn Sculpture Trail, and I was talking to Angela yesterday, and we did some more unpacking of it over the last 6 months. What's happened is that ASTW has a linkage through, and I don't expect anyone to understand this, but basically when Angela and our councillors identified that there was a problem with not having enough Lake Dunn imagery on our website, what we found was that in our journey section of ATTW, it doesn't actually automatically pull through to websites. Now that's a problem with our website, and we've been told it's going to cost over $200,000 to actually fix that linkage. What we can do though is we go through and manually change it and fix it, which is exactly what we did when Angela and Brett raised it. And so what we did to try and make up for some of the missed opportunity there was we created standalone blogs. We ensured the journey listing, and we make sure that's checked. In fact, I checked it again yesterday. And we do an updated galleries, and we make sure that that's all goes through to our media releases. So it's all fixed from our point of view, and I think you will have seen in the last 4 months there's been an exceptional amount of PR on that sculpture trail. And congratulations for your prizes that you've won. Fantastic. Awesome. And there is more PR coming. In terms of some of the sculpture trail, some of the results, and I don't want to put you at any difficulty here, but so I'll...
No, Denise, Councillor Rogers, have any issue there? So the DCOI was declared.
Okay, that's fine, because this is very much our content now. So we're just using the assets of the region. We actually have 4 journalists we're going to bring out to this area in April, and they'll be doing that sculpture trail as well, and writing for Women's Weekly, Australian Traveller. There's an Australian Traveller competition at the moment that's up to 4,000 subscribers for a competition to be part of an extension program, which I'm going to talk to you about, doing some artwork with them. So the galleries and public arts blogs, we've been able to get our extension of content through many more avenues. And again, I think that letter that you sent us was a really good opportunity for us to flesh out where the issues and the blockages were. And what it did is it brought us to the table and worked out what you want, what we want, and oh goodness, this link is broken. We didn't know it was broken. So I think that was an awesome outcome. Obviously the Street Awards, fantastic, it was great. We got some more PR out of that in our agency. I'm speaking to the Ray Hadley show this week, and also Australian Traveller is doing another piece on the Lake Dunn for that. Increased social media content and activity. We've had a recovery campaign. The biggest issue that we're facing in our industry for the Outback is that we have we've got a busy 6 months ahead of us, but we want to extend the season, make the shoulder seasons a little bit more buoyant, and extend the reason for them to stay. So what we're trying to do is create opportunities to stay in Barcaldine overnight. So you get that overnight visitor expenditure. Although I just spoke to the motel I was staying in last night, and they turned 20 rooms away last night. But I know that's a one-off, but at the same time I know it's busy here, it's a busy hub. So we've just got to make sure that we keep attracting assets to bolster our accommodation offering. I don't know if you heard much about our muster. 2 weeks ago we had 170 people in Brisbane for our muster. We had 70 travel agents and 70 on wait list. We were only allowed, COVID restrictions, 140. And we had over 50 operators from the Outback. It was fantastic. So they've asked for us to do that again. We did it as a 2-hour tabletop presentation where everybody spoke about their products, spoke about their itineraries, gave reasons to stay overnight, and the travel agents just ate it up. So we have over 550 travel agents now on our closed user group, and we feed them up information every day because they're all trying to sell domestic product at 10% commission. So we're giving them what they wanted. We also provided a drive guide, which was no cost to anybody. We did that out of our recovery funds, and I'll pass some of those around if you wouldn't mind, Angela. So what we did is that we've taken every single itinerary from the Outback, we've QR coded it. We're the first brochure in Australia that's gone with QR coding, so that real-time information gets fed up into those itineraries. So if I can just show you, sorry, I'm just going to use, yeah. So we've done a map in the centre. We've done all the different itineraries, 12 different itineraries, and they're all QR coded here, so that you hold your phone over, and whatever's in your ASTW listings, if you change it today, it'll get pulled through and changed, so it's real time. So it's an awesome piece. We've had fantastic feedback on it. And the other good thing, and I'll give you yours back. You're right. The events page, we've done that as well, and we can change that in real time as well. It's got a QR code. So everything's been, I got my inspiration for this from the cruise market, to be honest, in that you pick a cruise line and you decide where, you think, I might want to go to Italy. So if you go to Italy, what parts am I going to do? And usually a cruise brochure will feed you up about 18 itineraries as to how you can do that. So we figured if it was that easy for the cruise market that are so successful at marketing, let's do it for
unfortunately was recently referenced as a comfy pair of slippers in the tourism industry circles. So anyone who thinks of the Queensland holiday thinks about, that's Queensland, you know, we know what's up there. And they're just comfy, we'll go there if we just want to chill. And they're totally missing out on the depth and breadth of the experiences and adventure that we've got. So we've got to step our game up at a state level marketing perspective, but also at an operator level. And this plays to making hay while the sun shines when there's tourists in town. And unfortunately, working 7 days a week during busy season is a decision that some businesses will need to make. We've got businesses all over the region that are deciding that we're going to shut down, a bit like the Northern Territory during wet season. That's okay, but it's got to be openly understood in the tourist market well in advance that these things are going to be closed, because what we've seen during COVID is a hell of a lot of feedback coming through about experiences people are having and not expecting to have upon arrival. And that's just it's a maturing thing, and it's a decision that each local business and each local town will go through as you get busier and busier. So yeah, it's a tricky one because you've got your lifestyle and the reason people live out here to manage, but then you've got the ability to make a bit of hay while the sun shines, so to speak, as they roll through town. So that's what the Ultimate Transformational Experience Guide is all about. I won't go into that much further because it is about to roll out and I'll be in touch with that. For who I haven't met before, apologies, my name's Matt, I'm from Tourism Events Queensland. We work closely with the 13 RTOs across the state. We fund them a share of $7 million a year across the 13 organisations, and the funding is split through an overnight visitor expenditure methodology, which does make it harder for Outback to get awfully large amounts, but it gets a fair share of what Treasury will allow us. We then work with the RTOs on restart marketing campaign funding and all the other grant opportunities that exist through government in the tourism space. Denise mentioned QDEF, the Queensland Destination Events Program, which is where you can apply for event funding through TEQ for events that have had an existence of more than 1 year, and you can get up to 25 to 50, sometimes 100,000, depending on your event in that space. And that's an evolution working with the event program as well, where we hook onto an event, we work with them for a little period of time. Dinosaurs. Now that is a shot in Winton. Should be a shot of Muttaburrasaurus, but you guys are in the development phase there of that project, and I did speak with the Mayor and the team about 12 months ago on where I'm heading with Outback Queensland Dinosaurs. We see at TEQ the term dinosaur tourism as the unique selling proposition that is going to bring many, many people to Outback Queensland over the next 10, 20, 30 years as these things develop. So if you can move out of the sort of year-to-year grind that you're all in and think a bit more 10, 15 year, sometimes even 20-year destination design work that we're doing here around this topic, and Muttaburra plays a huge role in that. Not to mention, Councillor Peoples and I witnessed something near Aramat recently. There's more stuff out there, and we know it's out there, and there's people popping up left, right and centre with stories in this space that we have to now try and control and manage so that we get the best global message out about what this means. We've studied this globally. We took a group of people overseas before the pandemic, just 12 months before, and went to North American dinosaur attractions and how towns in particular have geared themselves around these topics, and the money that they're now generating out of that particular experience is quite incredible. One of the biggest being Drumheller, which is a community, collectively not much bigger than you know, a couple of Central West towns put together. But what they've made of themselves out of that museum, the Royal Tyrrell Museum, was quite incredible. So we're learning what this means for us, but what this means for Queensland as well. We always hear the reef ad nauseum being promoted, and it's such a global phenomenon that we're never not going to hear that. The world knows about the reef. The world doesn't know about Outback Queensland dinosaurs and how much we've got out here yet, and that's our job, to make this one of the unique top 5 reasons people visit Queensland, or hook them to visit Queensland. So I've been looking at what's going on around the world, as well as what's going on around Australia in this space as case studies, and what different things are occurring. Broome, for instance, recently launched Trackways, which has gained quite a bit of momentum. They've linked it to the Aboriginal storylines and have put a really good attraction together, but it's nothing on what we've got. So it's all in the way they've packaged it and worked together and got their attention. What I've seen of what we've got in Queensland, it just knocks it for dead. Moving exhibitions of dinosaurs, once we've got the facilities that can house these things, these moving exhibitions, we could bring all the Chinese dinosaurs over to Outback Queensland and have them on display out here with the Australian dinosaurs. And we've seen through the UK, these moving exhibitions can bring lots and lots of people in, providing facilities are set up to allow that to happen. So your likely facility to be able to achieve that 15 years down the track is the one on the jump up in Winton, if they build that $100 million facility that they're talking about. But that's going to bring a lot of people to the Central West. It's also going to bring a lot of people to the other dinosaur attractions we've got through that dinosaur triangle loops. Muttaburra, down in Boulia, they've got quite an incredible little collection of marine fossils. Isis folia, the little crocodile they've got down there. I mean, we've got so much. We don't want to build another museum, we feel, with what we've got in train at the moment. If anything else is found, let's not get too excited and start to build another museum. Let's try and harness the ones we've got. Because on a map, it's quite beautifully dispersed right through the outback. I've jumped down there. We've got a World Heritage site loaded with fossils, which is a window in time. It's a window of evolution, it's a window of climate change. Climate change has been going on, absolutely. It's been going on for hundreds of thousands of years. And we've got the window to prove it, sitting up at Riversley World Heritage. So the potential is here. What I'm about to launch, and I'm hoping, I'm going to talk to Angela Moore and the team after this, we've developed a dinosaur tourism roadmap, which will hopefully harness what I've talked about here in coming together around Outback Queensland dinosaurs as a message and what dinosaur tourism means. And we're going to need to put together another wanky term I've learned from local work, a coalition of the willing out here to work with us on building dinosaur tourism to a global message space. And for that, we're going to need to develop I've modelled it off the Riversley Scientific Advisory Committee, and I'm calling it DTAC, the Dinosaur Tourism Action Committee. And it will be made up of you guys on the ground who are basically nuts and bolts at grassroots with dinosaur development out here. And I've largely rattled off who those players are just then. Big and little. We want the big guys to harness their power and bring the little attractions along with them as well. Because feedback from the CEO at Boulia, Lynn, recently was, we'll just get left for dead by some of these other big attractions. And that's not what this committee should be doing. When that founding committee comes together, we're looking for seed funding to make them happen. I want to fund them for 3 years so they can get off the ground. And I want an employee so that you all guys can tell this person what needs to be done rather than sitting on a committee without someone to tell to go and do the work. And we all know you sit on 1,000 committees out here there's not an employee attached to it, very little will get done because you've all got day jobs. So the dream, the mission that I'm fighting for at the moment is to get this committee founded with your help, get it funded for 3 years and get an employee who takes advice of the committee to move forward on the actions of that committee. To help the committee get ahead in life, we've built them their business plan for the first 3 years. It's got every foreseeable idea in it that we've discussed with all the regions already that it could work. Expanding the Australian dinosaur triangle is a really heated topic. There's a lot of ownership over that triangle that goes way back into the founding forefathers of that idea.
Oh, it's the dinosaurs.
Yeah, it is.
Council of Peoples, I might have to work with some of those. Really, you're on video.
Mr. Mayor, I did work with them way back then, trying to extend that region, so I know what you're going to have to go through.
I have got it in there as something we need to look at, but I don't want it to be the divisive topic that derails the forming of this group to start with. I think there's some other pieces of work that this group can get through before we get down to the nuts and bolts of trails and issues that we know are going to cause debate. One of the things I think we can really early get done is what is the true value of dinosaur tourism on a global scale now and 30 years down the track, and what does that mean for your communities if that forecast was to be met? That's a beautiful piece of research work that then you can use when you're applying for grants to develop your own attractions, because you've got a document here that gives you forecasted future value of dinosaur tourism. And that's the sort of project we want this group to deliver, something that will benefit all of the attractions, not the individual. So I can go into much more depth on that topic. I've got the roadmap written in draft. I'm using a consultant from the States who's totally unaware of local politics across Outback Queensland, which has been really good because he can just throw a question out there and go, well, I dare you to say that out there. But at least it challenges me on how we can best work together as a group. So that's dinosaurs. And all going well, I plan to have that launched and announced sometime in May this year, if I can get the final consultation complete. There's a fairly significant opening happening up the highway on May the 8th that it could be timed with. If we don't make May the 8th, there's significant openings down the highway Eromanga in June, July. So I've got a few windows of time to get that to happen. The other topic I want to talk to you all about, which I think you guys have sat fairly and squarely in the beneficiary of this program for a while, but certainly since the Workers' Heritage Centre and Wamparata Matilda dormitories are going through their change. I think you've missed out on some of the opportunities that have rolled through, but we believe we can pick this up. So this is the Outback Education Experience Program. Looks like your next group's here, so
They're here for morning tea, so they're
okay.
keep going.
At the moment, kids are getting up to $150 per child off their school subsidy to do an Outback camp out here. And thinking about what you've got being developed in Munaburra, what you've got here in Barcaldine, and then what we saw of the opportunities out in Aramac at Suzanne Thompson's development, stands to reason you've got a significant school education itinerary that you can keep schools in this region their entire trip if you were to build the content up around what they could be doing in that space. There's 100 kids from Sunshine Beach State School on their way out here shortly. In fact, we've got around 1,500 kids coming through the Central West over the next 6 months. You're going to see a lot of school groups.
Nudgee College have signed up for 3 years.
Yep.
Yeah, it's a lot of those schools that are now looking at Queensland and this program that unbelievably Matt and I started working on 17 years ago. We started working this process when we were both working together at Tourism Queensland.
Yeah, so it's a big one, and it's taken the attention of the Great Barrier Reef, would you believe? And last week the Premier announced a school subsidy program for kids to go to the reef to the tune of $150 per child, right off the back of this program. But they were open in developing it with us, and I actually see there's growth in this for us because we can't promote this outside of Queensland schools currently, because they're worried about what it looks like if Queensland government subsidises New South Wales schools, those types of concerns. But if you bring the reef and the message of the reef and you add reef and Outback together, we've talked about giving schools a bonus over and above $150 per child if they do both experiences. Plus the reef,
I thought we agreed on that.
we've talked about it, we haven't nailed it yet. If you think of the reef, most of the kids that are going to go there are biology 10, 11, 12. So we can actually fit 6, 7s, 8s and 9s into this system with the reef and actually build the whole message for Queensland and make it actually, make schools forget about Canberra altogether. No offence to anyone who loves Canberra, but I went there. You all probably went there, your kids will probably go there on a school trip, or Talabudra. They've had this market for so long, and we've got a much better classroom in the Outback. So I'm positive the reef's been announced, not negative towards it. I think it's actually going to give us the growth we're looking for, because we don't actually have the infrastructure in place to handle any more than we already have. Sorry, Mr. Mayor, I can go for hours, as you might understand. So that's where it's currently at. We got some money out of the monsoon disasters that happened in 2019 to help fund this year's education program. So that was great, out of the Queensland Reconstruction Authority. So we picked up a bit there to get it from $130 to $150 per child for the next 2 years. And schools just fill out their application form, show us their booking, and as long as they spend any time anywhere in the Outback, they get the grant. Yes, ma'am.
What about kids in the Outback that want to go?
Not to the coast, no. But if Mount Isa want to go to Charleville and look at the stars, then yes. But we're not going to subsidise to the coast.
Although the reef is now funded.
The reef is now funded, so you can just apply through the reef one.
Reef package.
Yeah, that's right. And the other thing that's happened with this, I've never changed the boundary of Outback Queensland with this program, even though Banana Shire are now part of OQTA, Balon, Maranoa have all come into Outback's tent since this happened, but we didn't change the boundaries of this because we want to push kids further west. And if I just make it Maranoa, they'll stop at Canarva Gorge.
Yeah.
So we've made sure and stood hard on that, even though it causes me a few fights. Next thing I'm about to do, we're going to come out for workshops in June, and we're looking, and I think Sarah sent an email to you guys, I've talked to you about this, about holding a workshop here on developing these itineraries, because we need more content. So we're going to hold some workshops in Barton's, one of the host towns, for that we've identified in June. So I'll talk to you about putting that one together. Hopefully it's not in line with the bush councils. Now that I've heard about that, there'll be no rooms, no beds, it'll be intense.
We're August, yeah.
Okay, August, okay, awesome.
I was just about to ask at the end of it, I'm hoping you guys might be able to come to that as well.
Yeah.
We got nailed at breakfast this morning as well.
Yeah, LGAQ.
I just didn't know what date, but that's okay.
Importantly, if you can get Workers Heritage Centre humming again with your new GM there and get Montserrat Matilda's operation up running, I know it's linked to Education Queensland. Schools ask for that place all the time, so it's a real asset to your community if you can lobby EQ some way to make sure that that maintains its level of importance in their eyes. Harder said than done, I believe. So just to finish, there's a lot of things you can do to work with TEQ. Signing up with IonQ is really crucial. That's our corporate newsletter. You just go on to our corporate website and sign up for that one. You'll get everything. Denise talked about HCW listings. If you've got operators that want to do a deal on the weekend, they can jump on and load an online holiday deal. We're rolling out the experience development guide I talked to you about. And your operators are all about to be reactivated in the Best of Queensland Experience program, which gives them a report on their business based on reviews that travellers make of their businesses. And this is a really harsh one because some people fail that and get quite upset when they fail it. But it's not about failing and passing, it's about identifying how they can do more to yield better out of their businesses. Sometimes you've got to give an F to get the conversation started. So I'll stop there. We're in town for the rest of the day, actually.
Well,
Yeah.
like, if that's the case, let's break, because we've just invited the local police along with Royal New for morning tea. Let's have morning tea and then pick up any questions that might be for T&Q or more generally. So let's just call that some morning tea.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thank you.